Good morning. Welcome to Bedhead, day 13. Keeping it going, keeping it real. I wanted to share this piece of art with you that I chose because it reminds me of the healing journey. Circles within circles, loops within loops, and a philosophy that I call the sacred circles. And I was going to share a blog post that I published when I was doing a WordPress site at ashley-lauren.com. If you jump on there, it's not going to have an SSL layer, and it will tell you that the site is unsecure because I have work to do in the background of that site. However, I can read you the blog post. And there's a journal excerpt in here that kind of inspired the post itself. The post is called Sacred Circles, the Unrushed Way of Our Healing. If I were not healed enough to face myself with love and compassion at every turn and seeming misstep, giving myself wide berth for my healing journey, the process would be unbearable and maybe even impossible. Thank you, self-love, for opening up a wide pathway and shining light upon it. That's a journal excerpt from September 15th, 2024. Going through a lot at that time. Our journeys of self-discovery and healing are not linear. I have a piece of art that hangs above my bed. It is a design of intertwining circles that reminds me of what I call the sacred circles, the countless loops we double back upon ourselves as we process through the intersecting patterns of our lives. I've come to accept that I oscillate towards my objectives rather than marching in a straight line up to a predefined destiny. I find myself in a season of deep healing where numerous disowned parts of myself are surfacing like a demanding pod of whales. And I posted this last February, asking for air and light and acknowledgement. These emerging aspects had remained hidden from view and buried deep within until recently opened up raw and fresh at the rapid illness and death of my stepfather over the summer 2024. I truly believe I'd not be able to embark on the painful journey of facing and healing generational trauma if I also had to face down my own inner critic at every turn. Giving myself permission to abandon the train wreck of a marriage was my first step towards radical self-compassion. In those first years after the divorce, I sought to redefine myself by my standards and no longer by the standards of someone whom I could never please. The next step was making sure that I wasn't inwardly carrying that same undertone of shame and dismissal that I'd grown so familiar with. We make things hard on ourselves when we are so hard on ourselves. It felt strange, but the primary focus in those post-divorce years was on loving myself tenderly and seeking pleasure, traveling, laughing with friends, wacky hairstyles, time in nature, ecstatic dance, art. Though it felt more like avoidance than healing and growth, it was a sacred circle in which I was coming home to myself. And that homecoming was completely necessary. Now that I have a better, stronger, deeper, more loving connection to myself, I'm in a place to turn inward and face those parts that have simply been too afraid to reveal themselves to me for fear of my censure and displeasure. Now they can emerge abashedly seeking love and integration, and I can welcome them home with acceptance and grace. Wow, I actually didn't read that all ahead of time. And that's so interesting that I would say it like that. You know, sometimes when you go back and read your own writing. I actually had a night like that last night where, it felt like everything I'd ever been sad about in my life was just kind of coming in little clips and pieces. And I decided to sit with those emotions and let them surface. They felt it was a sadness, but they all felt tiny but disconnected, and like they all just kind of, the way that dew spreads out, I don't know, on a tarp in the morning when you're camping, and it's as if they all had to coalesce into one bubble of sadness and just leave my body for good. So, but it goes back to the fact that I can hold myself with compassion now where I couldn't do that in the past, where I disowned those parts of me, where they splintered off and I rejected them. And now it's okay. I don't even need to define it. I don't need to know where it came from, what the roots are, what the origin is. I can just let it be there. And I can let it surface like a pod of whales. It makes me think of something that I have on my bulletin board over here that I'm looking at directly across from me. It's kind of like my giant vision board thing. I'd be embarrassed to share it, but if you're, yeah, this is like the Ashley vision board. I'm gonna clear it off soon and start the year over and fresh, but I've got a statement on there that says, unconditional enoughness, there is nothing left to chase. There is only presence left to step into. The home has always been you, and now you're finally ready to move in. I don't know if you needed a message about the cliche self-love today, but either way, don't forget that healing doesn't happen in a straight line. And when we circle back on ourselves and peel back new layers, the best way to do it and to approach it is with a big old heaping helping of self-love and self-compassion and unconditional acceptance. So I hope you have a beautiful Thursday or whatever day that you're tuning into this one, and wishing you many blessings on your healing journey. Always appreciate you reaching out, appreciate your comments. And I mean, truly, that's the point of showing up in my bedhead every morning, is to nudge you towards a little more self-acceptance and self-love. Okay? You have my permission, and yours too.